That's tomorrow, and that is it for us today. And we will leave you with a... I can't do it. We'll do it live.
Okay.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it, and we'll do it live. Thing sucks.
Fucking thing sucks.
5, 4, 3.
That's
Okay. Yeah. Well, sorry. Just had my own little doing it live there moment. Sorry about that. Stupid Tim Cook makes it so that you can't put RAM in your iMac, so your thing crashes every time you have too many windows open. Thanks a lot, Apple. Great. It's great. Fuck it. We'll do it live. Tim Cook, thank you so much for not allowing us to put fucking RAM in our computers so that we're limited forever. It's great. Anyway, okay. So I just said Wagon Box was sick. Wyoming, do it. It's beautiful. Very free speech, open zone. I don't need to say this again. I just said it, but I'm restarting this because the stupid fucking goddamn streaming thing doesn't work. The screen sharing wasn't working. So in any case, let's just get right to it. Go to Wagon Box, Paul McNeil. It's great. It's beautiful. Wyoming, fly fishing, beautiful streams, and really fun bar. Lots of great discussion. Okay, fuck it. Let's talk about what we're here to talk about. The internet is aflame because of my post daring to say that Zoran Kwame Mamdani's wife, whose name I don't even know, is hot. Smoke show. Which she actually isn't. But of course, everybody loves to get very upset about hot or not conversations, which is a little bit of a part of the problem of what I'm going to talk about today. Let's start with a little premonition that has stuck with me ever since that I saw it, which is from Sam Tripoli. Sam Tripoli is a great comedian. He's like I guess he's kind of like an anti-woke comedian type of guy. And thank you, Sex Freakman. Yeah, he's like a kind of anti-woke comedian type of guy. I actually saw him in a show with Gavin McInnes recently. He was great. He was really funny, this guy. But anyway, Sam Tripoli is on Rogan, I guess, and he makes this prediction in 2023 that I think really just informs so much of what's going on now with the left, and the left finding their narrative. So I'm just going to play this.
We're in the Bolshevik War right now, bro. And right now what's coming up is all the pride stuff is going to be... Okay, so I had this woman come on my podcast. Her name's Mel K. She goes, I've been talking to some people in the intelligence, and they go, this gay pride stuff is going away. And the next thing you're going to see are immigration riots. This is going to be right around the next election. So hand to God we do this episode. Next day, Starbucks is like, we're banning all the pride stuff. And now you start seeing they're putting little breadcrumbs out, man. Little breadcrumbs. Oh, I saw this one thing in Chicago. Oh, yeah, illegal immigrants are upset about where they're staying. And these illegal immigrants who speak no English are holding up perfectly written English signs saying we're tired of how we're being treated. And now you're starting to see this over and over again. Eric, so everyone's always like, when all these Republican governors are like sending these immigrants all over the country, everyone's like, yeah, you're showing those Democrats. Bro, they're moving assets. I know it sounds crazy, but that is 100%
What do you mean they're moving assets? What do you mean?
Dude, these guys coming into the country, bro, have you seen them? A lot of them are Chinese, and a lot of them are military-age people. Too. And I'm telling you, they're moving, and this is what's going to be right around 2024 election. Immigration riots, people going nuts, and as listen to this, and you'll start seeing all the little breadcrumbs. I'm telling you, that's what they want you to think.
You're buying it.
Oh, I thought they're moving assets, bro.
You're the puppet.
They're moving assets.
What do you mean, like military people?
Dude, study the Bolshevik War. It is happening in real time. 100%.
But
I just wanted to get that out to everybody. I want people.
Okay, so the relevant part of that is not so much what he's saying about it being about immigration. The relevant part of that is what he's saying about the gay stuff going away. I remember I was at a grocery store recently and I came across a giant shelf. I've talked many times about how the grocery store is an amazing reflection of left-wing patronage networks, and you can tell a lot from actually looking at the products and where the money goes. There's a huge display in Whole Foods, and it's the new flavor of Liquid Death water, which is like an evil mega globo homo brand. And the title of the new flavor, the name of the new flavor is Dead Billionaire. And it's called Dead Billionaire, the new flavor of this water. Even though I'm sure the owners of that company want to be billionaires. Maybe they aren't yet, but I'm sure they want to be. So what we're seeing, as Sam Tripoli kind of teed up and kind of didn't, is the left is finding bit by bit their new narrative. They're finding their new image. They're finding their new series of propaganda that is going to define them for this whole next cycle. It's not, I disagree with Tripoli that it's going to be all about immigration. What it's going to be all about is poor people versus rich people. They're basically shifting everything over to being poor people versus rich people. It's going to be all about the left is the party of the little guy. Let's look at a Gavin Newsom thing. And we all know Gavin Newsom stays on message like a good little boy. Here we have Gavin Newsom, who's the son of some sort of famous. His father was a prominent San Francisco attorney and a judge. He was raised by the Gettys, basically. So, yet, here is Gavin talking about his mother, who actually later, it's a very sad story, his mother later, died via assisted suicide. And I think he didn't even, know about it, which is sad. But here is Gavin talking about what a common guy he is.
Very emotionally attached to this reality. I can extend the same. With a sister who quite literally lived in a cutout of the hallway because we didn't have more than one bedroom where I slept on the couch. With a mom who was working almost 3 jobs, 2.5 jobs, and renting, and then rented out the spare bedroom for most of my childhood. The emotional attachment to the issue of affordability is real.
Wait a second. I thought you didn't have a bedroom. Now they're renting the bedroom? You just said you didn't have a room. You were sleeping on the couch. Now you're renting the extra bedroom? Is that so? Why didn't you just sleep in the extra bedroom? I don't get it. Anyway, we all know Gavin Newsom's completely full of shit here. He's not some poor kid. But he's changing message, right? What's happening is we're seeing the message being changed in real time. We're going away from chop your dick off. We're going away from trans. We're going away from those really addictive tips of the identity politics spear, racism, misogyny, where those things are going away, and it's being replaced with we're the poor people, and we are here to help you. Global masses, we are here to give you free shit. And the Zoran Mamdani win in New York is a very telling sign of where things are going. And that's a big moment. That win by this full-on communist, ultra theater kid type of guy, total phony, who eats with his hands to signal that he's a man of the people. That's what's happening. That's where we're going. We're going towards global brown masses versus evil Jews and white men. That's basically where we're headed. Of course, the white women, particularly the Jewish white women, are on the side of the people that want to kill the white man, because why wouldn't they be? But let me just share a couple other things here that are along these same lines. And let me just tell you why I think this is working. I think the left has not been able to get something to work for a long time. We all know they can't meme. We all know they are not funny. They've ceded all of the ground on comedy. They have no ability to meme or do anything funny on the internet. They have no ability to make anything compelling. But now they are figuring out how to do that. They're figuring out how to do that because they're leaving behind these identity political things. And when they do that, they become extremely lethal. They're going to be very, very lethal and hard to beat. And what is the right doing at the same time? They're completely fumbling. They're fumbling. They're allowing themselves to be painted negatively. They're allowing themselves to get sucked in to this image of disaffected, out of touch, billionaire slave owner. That's basically what the right is doing, and that's occurring, as I will sort of say, I think because all the cool parts of the right have been, in a way, mostly unintentionally, but they've exchanged cultural edginess and creativity for political capital. And that may have been necessary, it may not have been necessary, but the thing is, when you give up the feed, when we stop being the cool kids, I hate to use that phrase, but when we stop being the arbiters of truth and beauty and humor and honesty and realness, and we start being the people who are telling you not to believe your eyes and ears, and to censor you, and to destroy you if you say the wrong thing, as soon as we start doing that, we've lost everything that made us even able to have the Trump revolution at all. You know, all of that is done as soon as we're suddenly the manipulators. It's not going to work. So this is why I'm doing this podcast, because I want to tell people, hey, don't lose that. I don't think it's lost. I don't think it's over. You know, I'm not I'm a trust the plan guy. I trust the plan. I'm not a panikin, but that doesn't mean you don't see the truth. It doesn't mean you don't tell the truth when you can and offer the advice that you can. So let me just show you guys something really, really, really fucking weird. So check this out. A friend of mine, Virgil, sent this to me, and he was like, no one has talked about this. I think I'm literally the first person to do a thing on this, like, in existence. There was a guy who won Britain's Got Talent in 2023, and his name was Viggo Venn. And Viggo Venn was like the least popular winner of Britain's Got Talent ever. People were like, I'm quitting this whole thing. Fuck Viggo Venn. This is bullshit. It's fake. It's fake. It's fake. And you're saying, why? What is this? What is happening with this guy? So what his act is, this guy Viggo Venn, is that he just dances around sort of meaninglessly, and he wears a yellow vest, a yellow high-vis worker vest. And as he dances around, sort of like a Russian doll, he rips off the vest. And then he rips off another one. And then he rips off another one, and then he rips off another one. That's it. That's the whole performance. That's the whole thing. Now, I'm going to show you guys and talk through it so people listening at home can understand. I'm going to show you, it's about 3 minutes long. It's his first audition. And you're going to see something here that is so obviously fake that it's just astounding. I can't believe that nobody has done a thing on this, because it's just like so ridiculous. So here, we're just going to watch this really quickly. Okay. Okay, so we have a guy, a goofy guy, jumping out on stage wearing a yellow vest. A yellow vest, and here's Simon Cowell looking surprised. So he's clapping. He's clapping and running around with his yellow vest. The music stops. He kind of smiles at everybody. The sheep in the crowd are happy. Wow, what is it?
I thought he was going to do stand-up comedy.
And then he takes off his yellow vest and whips it around. And underneath there's another yellow vest. There's another yellow vest. So then he dances around some more. The fat people in the crowd get out there. They're really so excited about the man in the yellow vest.
Simon's face is like this.
And, you know, of course, the subtext here is...
In Norway, that means you're doing really good.
The yellow vest was the symbol of the working man's protest in France. It was like the MAGA hat of France. So, okay, so he's taking it off. He's got another yellow vest here. we're watching this. For anybody who wants
Is there
to
any
tune
more?
into
Is
the
there any
actual
more?
thing
Come
that
on,
we're
please.
watching. And he's got another yellow vest. So he's yellow vested. Simon Cowell is looking like what is going on. And he takes off another yellow vest, and it just goes on. And he's got more yellow vests. Yellow vest, yellow vest, yellow vest. And then he says goodbye, and then I'll just skip ahead. Then he comes back with yellow vest, and then somehow he ends with a golden vest. But then somehow everybody in the backstage also has yellow vests. So suddenly everybody is wearing yellow vests in the whole thing. And like, how did this happen organically? It's just so obvious. Look, the whole crew now has yellow vests. If this is okay. If this is, here's the whole entire camera crew wearing it. This is how stupid people are. The entire camera crew is now wearing yellow vests. This is supposedly an audition of a guy, Viggo Venn, who just showed up on stage and did this thing with the yellow vests. Now the entire crew has supposedly donned yellow vests because they love this guy so much. Okay, what is happening here with Viggo Venn? In my view, what's happening pretty obviously is that their biggest fear, they hate the MAGA hat, right? The propagandists in question, as we talked about in my stream on the LA riots, are very obsessed with symbols, signs and symbols and images. Volume too high compared to mic. Okay, sorry. So a lot of people couldn't hear what I was saying because of the stupid volume. But anyway, the point being, the yellow vests are a symbol of the working man's protests in France. They're sort of based, they're sort of MAGA. Now, this is 2023. They have this guy who's obviously a manufactured person who jumps on the stage, and not only has he got 8 million yellow vests, everybody backstage also has yellow vests. Suddenly. No one brings up in this entire thing of this guy, of Viggo Venn. Nobody brings up publicly, nobody writes about, nobody talks about the fact that these yellow vests are a symbol one country over in France, like a MAGA hat. So imagine somebody wearing a bright red hat that says something on it just like MAGA in America's Got Talent, and then the whole thing becomes about that red hat. And he wins, even though he has no act. It's the worst act ever. He doesn't do anything. He just jumps up and down and does the vest. He just takes the vest off and then goes away. But nobody mentions ever that it's a symbol of the working man. Obviously, to me, what's happening here is this is a propaganda push. This is a propaganda push to stay ahead of a symbol that could sweep Europe and become the iconographic symbol of a working man's movement. They're basically saying, we're going to not allow that to happen. We're going to have this guy take that off the table. It doesn't make any sense otherwise. If you go and watch these Viggo Venns, go and watch his first audition. Tell me if that looks authentic to you. It's so obviously not authentic. Everybody in the backstage is wearing the yellow vests. It doesn't make any sense. Also, why would that win? He doesn't do anything funny. He doesn't say anything. He just waves the vest around. It's completely insane. So that was they have been working on the left, on the global regime left. All they think about is signs and symbols. So they've been working on this. They've been trying to recapture the working man. That's their goal. That's their whole thing. They're going to go full on. Race doesn't matter. Forget about all that shit. The working man together. Look at what Gavin Newsom just said. They're going to go full on into that. And, it's a good approach. It's a good approach because they're going to try to frame Musk, Trump. They're going to try to frame all these people as against the global working man. And this was somebody's saying the yellow vest movement was only put down by the COVID lockdowns. Yeah. So this is them working on this propaganda project of they're saying, no. These yellow vests are not going to be a symbol of the organic working man, the organic right, against the regime. That's not going to happen. We're going to get out ahead of that. And it worked. The yellow vests are not the MAGA hat. It didn't work. It maybe in France they are, but they're not in England. And so weird stuff going on. That's just one of those things you watch and you get a sick to your stomach because you're like, what the hell is going on? What am I missing here? Like, what is that? It's so strange. So I'll do another quote here from another propagandist. Last time we sort of grounded our discussion, or at least in the LA propaganda episode, which everybody loved, we grounded the discussion in the rules of Saul Alinsky, a propagandist that many left-wing people follow. Now we'll do a little bit on Bernays, who is a precursor to Alinsky. Bernays was Freud's nephew, as many people know, and he's sort of the father of modern public relations. Basically, so people say Walter Lippmann was the father of public relations, and then Bernays was after Lippmann. Bernays was known as a practitioner. He was known as somebody who knew how to promote products. He was sort of the first guy to make it so 100 doctors agree you need to be eating bacon. He was the guy who knew how to draw together these authorities and make a sensation. Before him, Bernays, or Walter Lippmann was focused a little bit more on stereotypes, meaning sort of the way that people see the world, and establishing an expert class to brainwash the masses. That was sort of Lippmann's thing. I think both of these guys get a little too much credit. But in any case, there's a great passage in Bernays' book, Propaganda, where he dissects the front page of the New York Times. And keep in mind, this was the 1920s. So this is like, it's way worse than this today. But he basically says, this is the front page of the New York Times. 50% of the stories you're seeing on the front page of the New York Times are placed there for public relations purposes. They're not there organically. They're not there because a journalist said, hey, let me do a story on this. They're there because somebody had a connection to one of the journalists, or they had a press release, whatever it is, in order to influence the masses. And I'll just read this here. The extent to which propaganda, this is Bernays, Edward Bernays. The extent to which propaganda shapes the progress of affairs about us may surprise even well-informed persons. Nevertheless, it is only necessary to look under the surface of the newspaper for a hint as to propaganda's authority over public opinion. Page 1 of the New York Times, on the day these paragraphs are written, contains 8 important news stories. 4 of them, or 1/2, are propaganda. The casual reader accepts them as accounts of spontaneous happenings, but are they? Here are the headlines which announce them. And he reads the headlines. Each of these is a headline. 12 nations warn China real reform must come before they give release. That's one. Relief. That's one. Pritchett reports Zionism will fail. This was before the World War II. That's number 2. Realty men demand a transit inquiry. And that's 3. And then 4, our living standards highest in history, says Hoover Report. So take them in order, he says. The article on China explains the joint report of the Commission on Extraterritoriality in China, presenting an exposition of the powers stand in the Chinese muddle. What it says is less important than what it is. It was made public by the State Department today with the purpose of presenting to the American public a picture of the State Department's position. Its source gives it authority, and the American public tends to accept and support the State Department view. So when you're reading the front page of the New York Times, what he's trying to tell you is that could just be the government talking to you directly. That's one example. And this happens to us all the time with the regime, the global regime. They talk to us directly. Okay, here's number 2. The report of Dr. Pritchett, a trustee of the Carnegie Foundation for International Peace, is an attempt to find the facts about his Jewish colony in the midst of a restless Arab world. When Dr. Pritchett's survey convinced him that in the long run, Zionism would bring more bitterness and more unhappiness for both the Jew and the Arab, this point of view was broadcast with all the authority of the Carnegie Foundation, so that the public would hear and believe. The statement by the president of the Real Estate Board of New York and Secretary Hoover's report are similar attempts to influence the public toward opinion. So what he's saying here is, look, okay, let me just continue. He says, these examples are not given to create the impression that there is anything sinister about propaganda. They're set down rather to illustrate how conscious direction is given to the events and how men behind these events influence public opinion. So what he's trying to say about the Israel thing is the Carnegie Foundation did a report that they had a bias behind. They wanted a certain answer from it. Then they gave that to the New York Times. The New York Times reports it as they want it to be reported. I'm only bringing this all up because at the end of the day, you have to admit, you have to acknowledge that the press stories you're receiving, the stuff you see on Britain's Got Talent, the stuff you see on the feed, the Gavin Newsom giving this press conference where he says these points, oh wow, look, it says dead billionaire suddenly in the middle of my face. I walk into Whole Foods, suddenly it says dead billionaire is just staring me in the face in a giant tower of soda cans. Why is that happening? right? Why is that suddenly happening? The left is shifting the narrative. They're shifting the narrative, and they're successfully doing it. They're successfully doing it right now. They are pushing it to reframe it as we're not the fat blue-haired pieces of shit who want to castrate you and are in wheelchairs. Somebody just spread a great video of the Pride March in New York, and it's like the wheelchairs, everybody's disgusting and fat, and as Tripoli said, they're getting away from that, man. That's done. They're moving past that, and what happened on the same day that there were Pride marches in New York, in LA, there were immigration marches. They're shifting. They're moving from one to the other because the other one didn't work. They saw what happened with Trump. Gay shit never works, man. It's really dumb that they put so much into rainbow because it just never works. Look, gay people, do whatever you want. I don't care. I'm not saying you deserve to be in jail at all. I have many gay friends. It's great, but trying to force everyone to say, yes, I love gay people, it never works. It is an absolute failure every single time, forever. Anyway, not the point. So this brings us to my lady, my girl, Mamdani wife. So who is this Mamdani? This Mamdani is a guy who just won he's a 33-year-old politician who just won the nomination for the mayor of New York City. It was a surprise, I think, to most people because he's Muslim. He is anti-Zionist. He is really corny. He cries and he does this thing where he eats with his hand rice to make it seem like he is a man of the people. He's kind of a Zelensky kind of guy. I had a tweet that went super viral about it. He reminds me, there's this sort of group that is, we talk a lot about the theater kids. Theater kids are sort of effeminate, performative, usually children of well-to-do families. They go to Ivy League schools and they develop this kind of feminized, performative, homosexual tendency towards singing and dancing and really being phony as fuck because that works. That works to convince people because people are stupid idiots and performances work. They draw people in. But that first 1.0 theater kid, they became dominant in DC, but they didn't really, it didn't totally work to take over the country because they're so disconnected. Now, people don't like theater kids. People don't like this phony shit. They want to feel like somebody's real. And these people, they're very manipulative, and they're just disconnected from the common people. A lot of them were Jewish. A lot of them weren't, though. A lot of them were just, normal white people and be Christians from, well-to-do families. And they sort of coalesce into this really gross type of person that's constantly signaling how nice they are and how much they care, empathy. They talk in like therapy talk, and it's the Brooklyn hipster with the sort of fat face, loving his IPA, and I do improv, and I'm a policy guy from Harvard, and so that type of person we call theater kids, and that type of person really did take over DC. Yeah, the women, like, they sing songs. Remember during COVID? COVID was, how many dances did we see of them doing dances? Let's sing to them. That'll work, And it's like, sure, that works on a small percent of the population, but the rest of us are just like, yuck, get the fuck out of here. And anyway, but these people are self-hating. Generally, your normal theater kid is a self-hating white or a self-hating Jew who, hates their parents and was not cool when they were younger. And so they spend the rest of their lives sort of, from a left-wing perspective, tearing down the people that made fun of them, tearing down good-looking people, tearing down aggressive alpha male types. But at the end of the day, they're still Americans, right? These people are still, theater kids are still Americans. They're self-hating Americans, but you hope that the theater kid, as he goes on through life, ultimately grows out of it and ultimately comes to a place where he goes, oh, you know what, I actually like America. I actually don't want to live in the third world. I actually don't want to destroy the protections and how awesome America is. And they kind of grow out of it. What Mamdani represents is this class of international people who are sort of impacted by the theater kids, because the theater kids are lefty, performative, very feminized types of people who dominate the Ivy League. These sort of sons and daughters of Indians, Muslims, like Brazilian people. For some reason, the East Asians don't really fall into this, but kind of the sons and daughters of the true global elite. So people who are international academics, which is what Mamdani's parents are. They're, they say they're Ugandan. They're not fucking Ugandan. They're like wealthy Muslim Indians, totally rootless, who are international academics. That's what his parents are. And, there's a lot of that. And these people go to international schools and weird-ass places. They go to, and they learn, but it's all the elite. It's the very upper crust. They learn to do the theater kidism, right? They learn all these mannerisms, these phony performative mannerisms, sobbing George Floyd. This is the type of shit these globalists learn. We need to sob with George Floyd. Remember the guy who's a Minnesota mayor, same fucking deal. But he's more of an American version of this. This new version is like a 2.0. They're like the people who are kind of copying the American theater kids. But the difference is they're actually international. They actually are the sons and daughters of, kind of elite brown people from the world who actually do stand to gain if America gets fucked. A theater kid in America doesn't actually win if he destroys his own country. He loses. A Mamdani theater kid Mamdani has said he wants to seize the means of production. If he gets his way, if he cuddles up to the DSA theater kids of Brooklyn, DSA is Democratic Socialists of America. It's kind of like the rich kids socialist foundation. If he convinces them and he drives them and pushes them to continue to harm their own country, he actually wins. That's good for him. If Mamdani destroys America or destroys New York City and dispossesses the Americans that own it in the name of global communism, he wins. That's great for his elite family because then they just have more power. They have more control over the globe. So you see these people everywhere. They're kind of like, weak imitations of theater kids. They're always kind of talking about American culture. You know, they love talking about Succession. They love talking about, Caitlin Clark. Let's talk about they are so excited to talk about these little cultural fixtures because they're just soillennial as fuck. And everything they do is like, I'm appropriate. They're constantly auditioning. They're constantly auditioning to seem appropriate. Sorry. In the eyes of an American or in the eyes of, an American woman. But in reality, deep down, they always do these little signals of, yeah, but let's kill the chuds. Let's kill the chuds in the flyover states. Fuck those chuds. The racists need to be put in camps. They say, they're like, I love Friends, and the racists need to be put in camps. Just kidding. Ha ha ha. And, they're activists. They're part of this act. I've bumped up into this really disgusting sort of layer of full-time activist type people, and they're always, I'm the head of the teachers union, or I'm a labor leader, or, any of this shit. And they're all self-hating Jews for the most part, except now, or, self-hating white people, except now there's this new class of people in there that are genuine global elites. And that's what Mamdani is. And his ability to go against Zionism publicly, and his ability to truly appeal to the huge amount of phony-ass immigrants that have been imported to our country is absolutely lethal, man. And watch Mamdani. Everything he does is going to be about global socialism, global identification with the working man. That's all he's going to do. He's going to be eating street meat out of his hand. He's going to be talking about, buying stuff at the bodega. AOC does this a lot. Let's buy stuff at the bodega. I mean, at least AOC is a genuine, actual waitress, and an American. This is like, so I tweeted about Mamdani with this thing. Everybody agreed with it. But then I was seeing pictures of Mamdani's wife. Now, look, here is Mamdani's wife. You can see her in this picture. She looks really good. She's got a good outfit on. She's clearly, what she's evoking here in this picture, she's got this wood paneling behind her. All of their pictures, she's actually really good at Instagram, this girl. I think she looks really good in this picture. Many, many people disagree with me. But they're evoking something in these pictures. She's evoking city, middle-class, bohemian communists. And that's a powerful, powerful image, man. In this other picture, what's even worse, so in this other picture I shared, people hated this one. She's wearing these kind of cheap shorts that are kind of crumply, and she's making a kind of goofy face. There's literally like New York City garbage behind her, but she's kind of doing reverse Anna and Dasha here. Anna and Dasha, I got in big trouble for saying this once too. What Anna and Dasha basically did is they took this template that you were seeing among actual just real normal girls on Instagram for years, which was this kind of like, I'm hot, I like my body, I'm taking a picture in a mirror, and I have a dirty bed behind me. But fuck my dirty bed, because all I do is party and do coke and talk about ideas and smoke cigarettes because I'm this kind of like edgy intellectual. And thank God for them, that became a right-wing coded thing. So that's why we sort of like took culture. This was the vibe shift. This was Dime Square. What she is, but what is Mamdani? Mamdani is like a huge repudiation of Dime Square, because what fucking happened? It didn't do anything. Like, we were all believing, we were all going around, well, politics is downstream from culture, and now it's cool in New York City to be a racist, and so, look, we're going to win. Yeah, well, it didn't work, did it? Because it turns out that none of that's actually true. I think it's really good that we had culture. I think it's great that we did it, but Mamdani is definitely an end around. It's them figuring out a fucking formula that works. Is it going to work? Is he going to win? Let's fucking hope not. Let's hope. We got to keep these people out of power as much as we can, but we also need to understand them. So what are we seeing with this girl, his wife? The H&M shorts are actually the key. They're cheap, they're shitty, the whole thing is very kind of base. Everything she posts is like this. It's all like Macklemore grade. We went thrifting. We're living on no money because we're of you. We're like you. We have no money. We have jack shit. Vote for us. Of course, this isn't true at all. They're like actually international elites, but they're figuring out this coding that really appeals to common people. And it's edging around to the point where now the left is having a youthful identity that is appealing. And the left is so much fucking better at this shit than we are, man. The left has always been better at telling that story. They've always been better at telling the story of how they are just normal. We're just the normal people, man. We get it. Let's go thrifting. Let's buy a cheap street meat meal. We're just like you. And also, we're so fucked because they illegally flooded our country with the fucking global south. So these people are appealing directly to both the self-hating white girl, which is a huge benefit to them. I mean, actually, in reality, I think the districts that went for Mamdani were all the rich ones versus the actual poor ones, which is many such cases. But they're coding in this way that is really irresistible to many different people in that class realm, because they're saying to the actual immigrants, hey, we're like you. They're saying to the self-hating white people crowd that's been really down and out for a long time, hey, we're like you. And the one thing that they can do that now we cannot do because we've been totally effectively wedged is they can be anti-Zionist. Mamdani can be anti-Zionist. He's got every other candidate shilling for Israel all day, and he gets to go out there and just be like, yeah, no, I care about the people of Gaza. I care about the people of Gaza. That's, it's absolutely lethal because he's being able to tell a truth that the right, at least the power people on the right, can no longer tell. Anna can't get out there and go against Israel. We all know that. And it's fine. Again, I don't blame it. I think, one side being Zionist is completely fine. But if your cool kids are not allowed to say anything bad about Israel, or else they're a Nazi, that's just leaving this giant gaping hole for the other side to walk through. And that's why I think the right really needs to figure out how to deal with this. It really needs to figure out how to talk about Israel in such a way that is not simply, if you don't like it, you're a Nazi, that was the mistake the other side made. And you can see the right is now falling into that trap. So, that's what this girl's deal is. She's mid. She's wearing a cheap outfit. She's in her, in other pictures, she doesn't look good at all. But the fact that she can put herself together in this sort of relatable, but also nice looking kind of Instagram thing, the fact that she can do that means that she is resonating very strongly with people. I guarantee you people are going nuts for this girl. She's going to be on all kinds of podcasts. I guarantee the disenfranchised Pod Save America, gay white men are going to go nuts for this girl. They are going to want her on absolutely everything. I mean, unfortunately, again, in real life, she doesn't actually look very good, so that's a little bit of a problem. But the fact that she can take Instagram pictures while dressing kind of cheaply but coolly, that's a huge shift. That really is a shift. And it's something we got to pay attention to. This blind, look, this can be my role. You guys can go, my friends of Twitter, you guys can go and do the political maneuvering thing, but I'm going to tell you the truth of what's going on. Because in my opinion, there's nothing more right-wing than truth, but whatever, that can be a different discussion. That brings us to some of the other things that have been going on. Yellow vest. Okay, what else do we have that the left is doing correctly? This Glastonbury thing. So Glastonbury is a concert that happens in England. A lot of this stuff is happening in England, I guess. And Glastonbury featured a guy named Bob Villain, Here's Bob Villain. He's got a great body. He looks like a homeless man, but many homeless people have great bodies. And his music seems completely stupid and pointless. But Glastonbury, it's a Glastonbury festival. So Glastonbury is a place where the big acts of England, they all want to play. It's a big outdoor place. But I think every year they do this Glastonbury festival, which is just sort of a general festival. And you look at clips from this festival, and it's all Gaza flags. It is Gaza flags as far as the eye can see. And then this aggressive, I can't even tell is he a rapper? Is he a punk guy? Who knows? The music sucks. But he gets up there and he starts pumping his fist and going, death, death, death to the IDF. Death, death, death to the IDF. He starts doing that. Crowd goes fucking wild. And what happens to Bob Villain immediately? This thing goes viral, like mega fucking viral. And the left loves nothing more than theatrics. They love music. They love chants. They love all this shit. And so he's out there just saying, fuck you to the man. We're not able to counter that because we can't talk about Israel. We're not allowed to talk about Israel, honestly. We just have to blindly support or else we get destroyed. And so it's, this guy comes out and it's a huge success. And what immediately happens? He gets banned by the State Department, Bob Villain, the U.S. State Department. He gets under investigation in England. He's now under investigation in England for anti-Semitic hate. He is banned from America. And he issues this statement being like, hey, I love my daughter. I love tolerance, blah, blah, blah. He comes out totally looking good in this. Because, look, he's saying this thing. He's winning the battle of images. He's winning the battle of images because he looks, as we talked about a couple times ago, like a brave freedom fighter. There's two modes. Victim, they love that. Brave freedom fighter, mode 2. The brave freedom fighter must always appear alone, which he does. He doesn't look scary in a group. It's just him, fist up, on the stage with millions of people around him. Brave freedom fighter. Gaza flags flying everywhere you can go. It's an amazing image for them to have. And then what happens? He gets censored and banned from everything. And that resonates. That's going to resonate with people. And then it's approved. Charlie XCX, the biggest pop star in the world, performs the next night. So, I'm sure that she had all her people lobbying her, don't perform. You're going to be condoning him. You're going to be condoning Bob Villain. And she did it anyway. So, another big win for them, this Bob Villain guy. And also, by the way, after this, they canceled the thing permanently. They literally canceled. Not only did they cancel him, they canceled the entire Glastonbury festival for next year. They're saying it's not because of him, but is it because of him? I don't know. So big wins for the left in the propaganda sphere. Okay, so that kind of covers the left. That covers where they're at. Now, what's happening with the right? What are we doing? And why are we stumbling around? So let's talk about a few things. One, we had Peter, this is the left again. They're learning to meme. We had Peter Thiel go on some talk show where the interviewer gets him in a trap where he basically says you're the Antichrist, and Thiel doesn't quite know how to answer it, which is fine. Like, look, that's not an error. Like, error, anytime you're dealing with journalists, shit like that's gonna happen. But Thiel looks this certain way. He's not dressed right. He looks too skinny, and he's kind of tweaking. He's kind of tweaking out during the interview. And so people are memeing it, and it's like him tweaking, and they put a wave behind him, so he just looks like he's tweaking, and now he's a lol cow for the week. I mean, is Thiel going to stay a lol cow? No. Thiel's great. I'm sure that he will figure it out, but that was just an unforced error. Then now there's this image of Thiel looking like a tweaker meth head. He's all skinny, he's like sweaty, and now he's got the wave behind him, and now he's anti-meme for a while. We had the Yarvin piece in the New Yorker. If anybody read it, it was Yarvin basically being framed as this nutcase who is hell-bent on enslaving people and, thinks black people should be incinerated. None of this is true, of course, but you can see the narrative being built. You can see them building this narrative. Thiel is an out-of-touch psycho who is, the Antichrist. He's monitoring your computer. Yarvin wants to be king and incinerate and enslave black people, right? They're pushing them into this billionaire. They're pushing them up against the wall and being like, those are the billionaires. Look at them up there. Look at Yarvin. Yarvin's out there gallivanting around the countryside, which is what this article is framing him as. And he's, shooting off his mouth about being important amongst these intellectual classes, and if he really had his way, black people would be liquidated. He's not saying that. He doesn't believe that. Actually, in my personal opinion, this was what the total failure of the No Kings posts, the No Kings protests were about. And those were a huge, huge fail by the left because they were horribly done from a propagandistic standpoint, right? But this New Yorker piece is well done. It's a very, very good piece. It's very well written. That said, do I personally think it makes Yarvin look bad? No, not at all. I think he looks totally fine. It makes me like him more. But for your normal, everyday, average kind of person, particularly the sons and daughters of the elite, they get to read that and say, oh man, these billionaires are trying to enslave us. They're going to try and enslave us. And so the thing that we had going for us in contravention to all of this was the truth. We had truth and beauty and humor. That's what the feed was. This is why the right can meme and the left cannot meme. We were telling the truth. We said what we believed about Israel and the Jews and everything, which is, again, nothing. I'm not saying I am a Jew, and I am a person who's here to kind of tell the truth and to try to lead people towards truth and beauty and as strengths. But so again, I'm not here to say I believe that the Jews are, the problem, but the right for a long time on Twitter talked honestly about them, right? And now, or talked honestly about Israel, at least. Now that's off the table because people like Chris Bernays, which we can talk about that in a second, have been moved off the chessboard because they questioned. Again, I'm not excusing Bernays. I think he self-immolated and probably deserved to be pushed aside ultimately. But what I'm seeing on the feed is a new sort of sense of control. I feel again like my behavior is being controlled. I feel like I'm not supposed to say this thing. I'm not supposed to have that opinion. I'm not supposed to go against this person. That would be counter-signaling. That would be not trusting the plan. That would be, getting involved with the woke right, or people who say woke right. Which, by the way, let's talk about woke right for a second. So woke right is this term that I'm completely against. And I think the people that say it are undermining everything they've worked for. I think people who get into this woke right bullshit, like James Lindsay, are destroying all the work that's been done. So thank you so much. But woke right is this term that has arisen to describe people on the right who care about identity. So care about white identity, care about keeping the country in the hands of the people who founded it, or at least, having some loyalty to the ethnic identities of Americans, and saying there is a difference between, a Ecuadorian and a heritage American. There's a difference between those people. You don't just immediately become American the second you walk over the line, over the barrier into America, which is obviously true. And the fact that the right can talk about that without being completely insane, which the left can't do, is our biggest strength. The fact that we're able to talk honestly about race It makes us funny. It makes us cool. It makes us great on the feed, etc. So the woke right, people talking about woke right, are trying to police the people on the right into not talking about those things, into not talking about the truth about different races and different religions and all this stuff. So, but this woke right is rising, and it's starting to infect the minds of people around. I think not because the people proposing it have any sort of point. I don't think they are making a good point at all. I think what's happening is increasingly the right on Twitter is starting to feel woke. And it's starting to feel woke because we're starting to not tell the truth. We're starting to favor consensus making over memes, over humor, we're over truth, over red pills. We're the red pill tribe. That's what we do. We give people red pills. They can't handle it. They freak out. They lose their minds. They immolate because they can't handle the truth about race. They can't handle the truth about immigration. They can't handle the truth about transgender. They can't handle these things. So they freak out. As long as we maintain that, we are going to win. We're going to keep winning forever. Because as long as you have that raw, elemental truth and beauty and humor, you will never lose. And that happens on the feed, right? That happens on the feed. What I see happening is the feed being controlled and people trying to take control over the message and the narrative and, oh, we all need to agree on this, or, oh, let's talk about the Rufo thing. So I think that this all kind of came to a head not long ago with this giant controversy between Christopher Rufo, who is a gatekeeper on the right now. He has kind of become known as one of the top political organizers and activists on the right. He is the guy who really decapitated Harvard of Claudine Gay, and he works for the Manhattan Institute, and he's become a star. He's a total star. He used to be a documentary filmmaker, actually, finally. He used to be a kind of Bourdain kind of guy. And that seemed like what he wanted to do. And then he switched to political activism. And, a lot of people call him a liberal because he's pretty centrist on a lot of things. But anyway, on our side, he's become the guy. He's become the gatekeeper. They call him the Godfather. He's the guy who decides, and he's said as much, I decide who gets elevated to Valhalla. He says things like that. So one of the guys they hired was a guy named Chris Bernays. And Chris Bernays is a very, very talented journalist. But like most journalists who are worth their salt, or artists of any kind, he's a very disagreeable guy. And you could always tell on the feed, he's constantly getting in fights with people. He's constantly saying truths he's not supposed to say. And at a certain point, he started talking about Israel. And the Manhattan Institute is funded by Zionists. I think, God, I don't even want to say. I want to say Paul Singer or something, but I don't know. I do know that another one of the people that funded them was this Edelman Family Group, or Edelman Family Office, which was a hedge fund in the health sciences world. And there's a woman named Susie Shofar who runs that, and who's on Twitter, by the way. And again, this is nothing against these people. Let me just say, I'm sure if me and Susie Shofar Edelman were in a room together, we would have a great conversation. We'd be on the same page about stuff. I'm sure she's a very well-intentioned person. And I think that probably all of the money behind the Manhattan Institute they're well-intentioned people. They're on our side. They're people who care. You look at Susie Shofar, she tweets all the time anti-trans stuff, It's great. They're putting their money in the right place. I have absolutely no problem with having patrons that influence your opinions. That's just the way it fucking works. Like Chris Bernays, the thing that I always want to say to him is, hey, look, you are a last honest man. You are chasing the truth like a dog. That's absolutely great. But you're never going to find a place where the donors don't have sway over what you think, man, or what you say. That doesn't exist. There is no such thing as that. No time in history has there been a powerful artist who exists in a complete vacuum where nobody has any power over what they say or do. That's a complete fantasy. You know, I mean, maybe there's a couple people, but particularly when you're writing about politics, you're going to have to pick a master. We all have to pick a master. You're going to have a master of some kind. And if you know that your master are hardcore Zionists, you happen to work for the Manhattan Institute, and suddenly you're out there taking a big shit on the head of Zionists all day, what do you think's going to happen, man? Of course they're going to get fucking like you can't walk into the Jewish temple and say, hey, it says right, the Google. Like, you can't walk into Google and say, hey, it says don't be evil. Why are you tracking people's information? Google doesn't have to keep you in there. They don't have to be like, oh yeah, you know what? Let's sit down and have a talk about it. Like, that's just not how things work. You're looking for purity that doesn't exist in the world. So anyway, so he gets out there, Chris Bernays, and he starts talking shit about Israel, which is, again, it's fine. But of course, you're a Manhattan Institute fellow. They're going to get fucking pissed about it. They start saying to him behind the scenes, obviously, hey, can we chill? Can we chill with the old anti-Israel shit? And what does Chris Bernays do? Chris Bernays has a complete fucking meltdown. Because again, for him in his mind, he's this pure journalist, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then Bernays and then Rufo and him have a big falling out. Rufo publishes this long post about it that, you know what, I'll just read it because why not? I feel like the people will be interested to hear Rufo's perspective. So he says, Rufo, I've had a number of people reach out to me about Chris Bernays. I thought I'd put together a statement. Bernays did great work last year exposing academic corruption, including a story published with me on Claudine Gay's plagiarism. I invited him to participate in a short-term training program, the Logos Fellowship, to support his work on academic reform. Regrettably, we had to terminate his participation in the program in May 2024 when he violated, after multiple warnings, a commitment that all participants made and all but him honored, to maintain a basic standard of professionalism and mutual respect. He picked fights with friends, posted bizarre material, and required us to clean up a number of interpersonal conflicts. We departed on relatively amicable terms. Subsequently, Bernays appears to have gone down a new path, which he calls anti-Zionism, but to me seems more accurately described as a form of conspiracyism. He is entitled to his opinion, of course, but I would not only register my strong disagreement with his position, but reiterate that he arrived at this position after he was let go from our program. He now claims that we fired him for his principled stand on open borders, but this is simply not true. He was never an employee, so it is an exaggeration to say that he was fired, and I certainly do not support open borders. Bernays has also attacked two of my colleagues, yada, 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 yada. Then he says, let me put my cards on the table. The events of October 7th shocked me, and although we saw an immediate surge in left-wing anti-Semitism, particularly on campus, there's also a right-wing variant that has captured certain corners of the internet. Okay, so look, put very simply, Bernays clearly started out saying stuff about Zionism. They tried to back channel with him. He blew up. It turned into a complete meltdown. This is what happens when you hire weirdos from the internet. Trust me, I know. When you hire weirdos from the internet, there's this sort of elemental power to them, and they can be really great. They can be very affordable talent, but they are very disagreeable people because they have this kind of elemental angry power, right? Bernays is a powerful journalist. He's very good. And when he gets his teeth in something, he doesn't let it go. Just like many people on the feed are fucking weirdos, but they are insufferable. And then they're kind of insufferable as people, and they're very difficult to control. So now, the issue with what Rufo is saying, I completely understand why he had to do what he had to do with Bernays, is that the Manhattan Institute, what I really dislike about what Rufo is saying is that it's not about, he goes on to say in this post that, I don't want to read the whole thing because it's actually really long, but he goes on to say that it's not about the issues, it's about behavior. Right? And Rufo tweeted about this a few other times during this same time. He kind of kept saying, this is all a judgment of behavior. I need to know that people can behave themselves. And Bernays did not behave himself. So he was thrown away from the elite political right wing, right? But at the same time, Rufo, the Manhattan Institute hired both a tranny, right, an open tranny who posts total lies, this Riedel person, posts total lies about the research and says, I was born with a woman's brain, I'm a man. Like, total bullshit. Not real, not true. Go look into it. Those things, there is zero evidence ever that a man is born with a woman's brain. I looked into it. It's the studies show that a transgender person has aberrative brain activity from a control group, non-transgender person. That's all those things ever show. Then they try and say, oh, well, that means they have a brain more like a woman. It's like, no. That's like saying, some person was just like, that means their brain is a mosaic between a woman and a man. That's like saying my Toyota's not working, so that means my Toyota is trying to be a Mercedes. It's like, no, your Toyota's just not working. That doesn't mean it's trying to be another car. So in any case, this Riedel person posts total lies, and they're trans. It's like, get the fuck out of here. Like an open trans. It's like, look, if you're struggling with the gender stuff, I get it, it's fine. Like, if you're having mental problems, I'm sympathetic to it. But if you're going to solve those mental problems by saying, I am a proud trans person, that's not reality, right? You've left reality. And so that's where the truth and justice people and the truth and humor people have to come in. That's where we got to say, no, sorry, we don't do that. And he also hired a porn star. So, this woman who had done porn before. And again, I don't have a problem with this. If Rufo's position is great journalists, particularly on the right, where we're all a bunch of outcasts, we're all a bunch of broken toys, we have this potential, and my job is to turn that potential into great journalism. I'm all for it, man. Get the tranny, no, I wouldn't do that, but especially like an open tranny, no. But a porn star, even maybe, I would say, like, okay, fine. Hey, look, if she's reformed and she's good at journalism, give her a shot. But it's kind of, if you're going to do that, you got to stick with that. If some, weirdo, Chris Bernays, who's a great journalist, starts to question shit and he's a psycho, trying to force him to not talk about this, it's like, it clearly didn't go really the right way. And then Bernays starts revealing all the stuff about the Manhattan Institute. He starts showing that it's all funded by Zionists and that all these Zionists are, trying to get him. And, this like Susie Shofar, this woman, he has a thing where she also fired Glenn Lowry because he dared to question the Manhattan Institute. And she's, even coming down on Rufo when Rufo is cuddling up to the woke right, which is something that Susie Shofar apparently was behind coining. And, Rufo's now saying Susie is Rufo's boss, and she basically tells him what to do. And anytime anybody gets slightly close to anything that might resemble Zionism, or anti-Zionism, including woke right, that really scares Zionists because they think, oh, the white people, they're getting together. The white people are getting together and they're going to go against the Jews. As soon as that happens, she cuts them off. She censors them. Now, look, that's all fine. But I noticed after this moment where Bernays went down and after Rufo became ascendant, that the tenor, I'm not saying this caused it. I'm saying around that time, there was a noticeable shift in the timeline where a lot of the accounts that were known for posting esoteric red pills that were kind of scary and kind of weird, they sort of stopped doing that. And it could have been a function of the formula, of the algorithm. It could have been a function of whatever it is. But since then, since about a year ago, and since winning, particularly, so much of what has been going on seems to be about control and consensus. And my opinion is, when we trade truth and beauty and justice and humor, when we trade the things that make us great for political consensus, some of those trade-offs may be completely necessary. Some of that stuff might have to happen. And maybe we need this stuff. Hey, BBB got passed. Huge ICE, huge investment in ICE. That's fantastic. That's really, really good. Maybe we need that, right? Maybe we need to trade, being in control of the conversation because we can meme. Occasionally, maybe we need to get everybody together and say, hey, just don't go bad against this because we need this thing to pass, right? I understand this process. I understand why that is sometimes necessary. But look at the feed right now. The feed, it's lame, man. It's lame. It's being controlled. When you cut out people like Bernays, you're cutting out the power. And the thing is, look, if Bernays was actually a Nazi, if he was actually a real, actual Nazi, then yeah, sure, okay, fine. You know what I mean? Like then I get it. Okay, yeah, he's got to be put aside. He can't be really included that much. I mean, maybe. I don't know, maybe. But he's not that. He went against the Groypers after this. The Groypers came after him, and he did all the work that he does against the Groypers, who are the hardcore anti-Semites. So clearly, Chris Bernays basically was what he was holding himself out to be, which was a truly independent thinker. And if you're going to kick him out of Valhalla for questioning Zionism, you're leaving the left a massive opportunity. You're leaving them Mamdani. You're saying, okay, well, the guys on the right are castrated. They can't talk about this stuff anymore. They're not allowed. So who can? Mamdani can. Fuentes can, right? You're creating a gap because the thing that we have is the feed. The thing that we have is the truth. And if we lose the truth, sometimes you got to trade against the truth. Sometimes you got to trade against your equity. You got to make those trade-ins off sometimes. I get it. But you can feel the shift. You can feel that the left is getting their ground game. They're not the ground game, that's the wrong word, but they're getting their mojo back a little bit. And I think they're getting a mojo back while simultaneously our people keep walking into traps that show censorship, that show this blind adherence to the plan, that show a blind adherence to the political victories that we need in order to exercise power. I had a big, long, lengthy argument with Zero HP Lovecraft, who I have nothing but respect for. I hope he didn't take this in any way as like me going after him personally. It was a good argument. And his point was basically that now that we've won, there's really no more red pills to have. There's really no more. The process of gathering red pills, that gave us power. People got the red pills, and now they're in power. So now they need to figure out how to govern, right? You gotta win the minds, and then once you have the offices, you gotta govern. It's a great point. It's a very good point. It's a very good argument, and I appreciated that he made it. I was saying, well, it's managerialism is really the cause, and as soon as you have sort of longhousey type women telling people what to do, or making your creative decisions, obviously you're managerialized. You are the problem now. And he was like, no. Managerialization isn't the problem. It's not the managers themselves having power is not the problem. The problem is the ideology of the managers. If your managers are right wing, you're in good shape. If your managers are left wing, you're fucked. That's his point. I fully respect that point. I do not agree. I think that managerialism is the left. I think that managerialism is the demon. That is wokeness is a function of managerialism. It's a symptom of it. It is not managerialism. If the right comes around and has managers in the middle telling them what to do, censoring them, monitoring behavior. I really hate this thing of, you need to behave. If we need to behave now, all we're going to do is just do all the same managerial shit that the left did. We're just going to be longhoused. We're just going to have, a bunch of manager type people castrating us, telling us, oh yeah, no, you can't say that. We can't do that. No, yeah, okay. The art, where's the art? The art is going to switch to what? Everybody's all excited because the State Department just published a picture of, I think, a Thomas Kincaid picture, which was of a nice, street. I should find it. It's the DA, the Department of Homeland Security made a post about, here it is. It's a Thomas Kincaid. I think people in art are actually not a huge fan of Thomas Kincaid, but they posted this thing, right? Here we have a picture by the State Department of a nice looking suburb. And everybody's like, yeah, no black people in the picture. Yeah. And I'm like, all right, look, it's great that the Department of Homeland Security is aesthetics posting. I think that's hilarious and fucking awesome. I think it's great to have this dream here of an orderly society. That's good, right? And it's good to forward that dream. But it's superficial. This is superficial. It's going to... All we're going to get if we have managerial political people, if we don't root out the managerialism itself, all that we're going to get is American flag painted, the same thing that happened with woke, except American flag painted. It's just going to be the same society. None of the things are going to change. Like what I really appreciate about BBB is people are focused on the goal. We need to fund ICE. We're going to fund ICE. We're going to get the people out of the country. Thank God. I totally get it. Let's fucking do it. But if we sacrifice the feed, or if we make the feed full of superficial, shallow Americanism that's just covering up censorship, behavioral control, consensus building in contravention of reality, those are woke things. Those are manager things. Right? If all we're doing is covering it up in rainbows, or it's not rainbows, American flags, if all we're doing is covering up the same system, then I think that that's a huge loss, because I think that the thing that gave us power was the feed. The thing that gave us power was the memes. And once we've lost those memes, man, it's just going to be a very quick path to a lot of disappointment. And I think we're seeing it in a lot of places. Here's another thing people just shared as this, here's a cultural thing that's happening, right? We're going to cover the West with gigantic titanium statues, says Atelier Massour. We came from Paris and we're looking to meet VCs in San Francisco. It's like, okay, here we go. It's a tech thing with statues. And then we have this group of guys wearing peasant outfits from the 1800s. And, a couple of art friends immediately sent this to me and were like, this is terrible. We're fucked. And look, I'm not shitting on this. Whatever, man. At least they're doing something. But simply just making a bunch of right-wing coded statues that vaguely resemble things from the Renaissance and redoing Thomas Kincaid, that's not a change. That's not all that is, and again, I don't want to use the word woke right, because I'm totally against woke right, but all that is just the same shallow bullshit ran the other direction. That's not advancement. If we actually are advancing, if we are actually winning, men will be allowed to create their shit with total freedom, total singularity of vision, and total dedication to the craft, separate from a bunch of fucking managerial women or gays or other men, whoever it is, fucking telling them, no, you got to do this. No, you can't say that. Oh, no, sorry. You got to talk to HR about that thing, right? The real right-wingism is anti-HR. It's anti-fucking consensus. It's singularity. It is singularity of focus and of passion and of truth and pursuit of beauty at all costs. It's not, let's fund a statue that looks like something that I recognize, it looks like a bronze statue. And look, these guys are dressed even like, look, they're dressed, it's the same era. Instead of funding a woke exhibit, let's fund an exhibit about cowboys. Cowboys are right wing, right? Let's paint some cowboys. It's not going to do it. If you're not allowing the wildness of life to live on the feed, if you're not figuring out how to make the difficult skittish stallion that is Christopher Brunet, if you're not figuring out how to mold that into something that helps us, and instead you're allowing that to be twisted around and to now he's working against us, to now all he fucking does is research our guys and undermine everything we're doing. Like, maybe he's not undermining everything we're doing. I'm sure he's doing good work, but now he's turned entirely against the right, right? He's not doing a lot of stuff on the left, at least that I see. If we can't figure out how to grow that talent of badly behaved people, the left has always been really good at this. If we can't take that elemental talent and instead it's a bunch of well-behaved fucking political dorks being like, oh, well, yeah, here's a cowboy, here's a statue you've seen before, here's a bunch of I'm a tranny, here's a bunch of hot takes about policy wonks. Oh, I'm a tranny, but no big deal. Like, just don't worry about that. Like, no, man, the heart of it has to change. Otherwise, the left, as we've seen, they're creeping in, man, and they're going to recapture all that potential energy that has gone in the middle, and they're going to do it largely by signaling against Israel, because that's how they're capturing people right now. The young people, they really are into this Gaza thing. And it's the left, it's everybody, man, look at that Glastonbury thing. This guy's music isn't even any fucking good. It's shit. His music is fucking terrible. It's like shitty Sublime or something. But since they're waving the flags, he's got all the attention in the world. And what happened? They fucking, they Streisand affected him. Now he's booted out of England. He's booted out of America. They made him into a fucking heartthrob, a horrible musician. Because they're censoring. We got to stop. We should never be fucking censoring. We should stay the party of the anti-censors. We got to do that. Or else we're lost, man. And as soon as we relinquish the feed, as soon as the feed is no longer run by us, and it's just, everybody on the feed is just fucking fart sniffing, and you can't say that you can't say that what's her name's wife is hot. You can't say this word or that word because, you can't make this observation because that's not okay. As soon as we're doing that, man, like we're toast. So this is a cry to anybody who may be listening to this. You got to let people be wild and crazy. You got to let the men build shit that they want to build and without trying to tell them what to do. And you got to figure out a way to mold this talent, or else the left is going to win the battle of the images, which they've come a long way in just a month. Anyway, all right. I think that's it for me. I don't think I have anything else to say. I just want to shill again for the Wagon Box. Speaking of free places, great place to go. The Wagon Box, it was a former biker bar that Paul McNeil converted into sort of a intellectual salon type of place in the middle of the woods in the most beautiful part of Wyoming. It's so gorgeous. Everybody should go out there. It's hard to get to, but again, as I said, the higher the barrier to entry, the better. Talk about wild places. The higher the barrier to entry, the more wild a place can be. And that place is pretty wild. It's pretty sick, man. But it's total freedom of speech, but it's not like, the Nazi rally. It's not at all like that. It's a lot of thinkers are talking about, homeschooling and biodynamic agriculture and, anti-transhumanism. Joe Allen gave a great speech there. So everybody go check out the Wagon Box. And yeah, tell me your thoughts. Write in your thoughts. Tell me what you're thinking about this stuff. Thank you so much for listening. This has been The Carousel. Okay, bye.